So the infrastructure bill is interesting because, as the name would suggest, it's supposed to be about roads and bridges and highways, but 2/3 of it's actually about things other than roads, bridges, and highways, which is no surprise. But obviously there's the much maligned and worrisome elements that relate to cryptocurrency. And to break that down, what you have is a general regime which has been in place for a while regarding brokers. And it inures to mostly like broker dealers, in the sense that brokers have to report transactions to the IRS in the form of a 1099 or other in excess of, in this case, $600. So if you've ever had a traditional brokerage account and received like a 1099 through a sale of stock of any equity, that's really where we're going with this. And the definition of broker has always been very narrow. But the intent of the amendment that's buried in the infrastructure bill is to ensnare parties that are engaged in the crypto space. And what they've done, or at least are in the process of doing, absent the House of Representatives making amendments, right? And there were some last-ditch attempts at the Senate level to make amendments, but those were blocked. And what we're effectively doing is expanding the definition of broker, right? And that definition of broker would include, and I quote, any person who, for consideration, is responsible for regularly providing any service effectuating transfers of digital assets on behalf of another person. So a broker would effectively mean anybody who touches crypto would now have a reporting obligation to the IRS. That could be miners, that could be software devs, right? Anybody, any service effectuating transfers. So think about who that really ensnares, right? And the problem is that most of the parties, by expanding the definition of broker to such a broad extent, most of those parties wouldn't traditionally have KYC. Like if you're an exchange, you have KYC, right? And there's a means and mechanism by which you can track and report this information. But most parties that are now going to be identified as quote unquote brokers will have to collect that information, whereas they normally would not, or in the alternative, they would be unable to provide the service because they won't be able to collect the information. It just simply is impossible. If you think about mining, it's just not feasible to do it. And there's a lot of give. Like, I think when you look at text of a bill like this and you know how things are interpreted, sometimes it takes a few court cases to kind of get to the right definition, the right meaning, right? But you never want to be the guinea pig who's in that court case that gets you to the right definition, the right meaning, but somebody will be eventually. But it's really cumbersome, right? And I think it hinders innovation, which is the sad part, right? I think you have really the home of blockchain innovation. Like, forget cryptocurrency, think of blockchain and think of everything we can do with blockchain. And that's really what it stifles. It stifles innovation in blockchain, of which cryptocurrency is sort of this subset, the snippet of code that lies along the blockchain. And unfortunately, right, if you're a blockchain developer, you may not want to deal with that. You may not be able to deal with that. Or a miner is not going to want to locate in the United States because the obligation to report is just too great, or if even possible. Now, for exchanges, I don't see it to be a death knell. Obviously, there's a cost involved, but I think it's problematic in the sense that it's more overhead, right? And like anything else, maybe it levels the playing field a little bit with traditional fiat brokers, but that's neither here nor there. Now, do your costs go up as a result? Who knows? But I think, any broker, and this includes OTC traders, right? Now, and I've said, multiple times before here that like OTC traders should register as money service businesses. And if you're registered as a money service business, your BSA obligations kick in and you should be doing KYC. So you should, in theory, be able to comply. But the reality is, it's difficult. It can be difficult, right? And it's something that you don't necessarily want to get into, but unfortunately you're going to have to. So it's not over yet, obviously. It's August 11th here, so things could change, but indeed this may be coming, and the impact on the lower levels in terms of mining and protocol and even code writing is going to be greatly impacted and perhaps unfairly impacted, but we shall see. So if you have questions, definitely hit me up, Adam at adamtracy.io, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.